Hey everybody, it's Goblin and welcome to the Aetherdrift Arena Direct. The Arena Direct series events is where you can win physical booster boxes of Magic the Gathering cards shipped to you by playing Digital Magic Arena. It's a very cool series of events that we have played almost all of them on this channel, recorded several videos of each, and I'm excited to hop back into it. So it is going to be a sealed event where you're playing best of one sealed in whatever format the prize out is for. So best of one Aetherdrift sealed, trying to win a Aetherdrift collector booster box. It's a very high variance event as well, high risk event, of course, to come with that high reward, where we have to get 6 wins before only 2 losses in best of one sealed, which is one of the most high variance formats on Arena because, of course, you have to open some great cards, you gotta dodge great bombs from your opponents, you gotta draw pretty well, and it's best of one, so you don't even have a chance to like redeem yourself against maybe a really explosive opening hand from your opponent or a rough mulligan from yourself or anything like that. So a lot of variance here that can take us out of the event, and very low margin for error at only 2 losses before we're out. But because it costs about $25 worth of gems to enter, and we win a prize that costs a little over $200, we're going to be in the money as long as we win one of these events within the next 8, which is pretty wild because I don't even have time to record 8 of these events within the 2 days that this is up. So as long as we just win one of these upcoming Arena Directs over the course of these upcoming videos here, I'll be happy and we'll be in the money. So while it is high variance and we expect to lose a lot, if we can just break through, get that 6-win run just a single time, we're in there, we're in the money. So without further ado, let's just hop into this thing. Let's bust open these packs and see what we get to play with today. All right, and this looks like a pretty great sealed pool here. We have one of the strongest rares in the whole set with Sab Sunan, Luxa Embodied. This is a 5-mana 6/6 reach trample indestructible, but they can only attack or block if they have an even number of counters on them, so the turn you play them, and then once they have 2 counters, once they have 4 counters, and so on. But any turn that they can't attack or block, they're just drawing you 2 cards, so you stay super ahead on every turn with this card. It's just been absolutely incredible, and I'll be happy to run that if we have good green and blue. And we have a couple other blue rares, the Possession Engine being a removal spell that also lets you crew your vehicles with whatever you've stolen from your opponent, including the engine itself. The Waxen Shape Thief is a second copy of our strongest artifact or creature that we can flash in it as well, which is great because we can flash it in, eat an attacking creature. And then a couple Market Back Walkers. These are fine, solid filler for any deck. They're not quite bomb level like the other Possession Engine and Sab, but they're nice in that they're going to fit into our deck no matter what colors we end up playing. So we'd really like to go blue-green if we can, and we've got a really powerful green-black rare as well, but this one requires a little more building around than all the other rares we've mentioned. We do want to have a lot of self-mill for this card ideally, plus the mana cost is pretty restrictive, double black and a single green, versus these other cards only requiring, double blue or 1 green and 1 blue instead of 3 very specific colored pips of mana. Gas Guzzler, kind of filler, and Guardian Sunmare. I think when we just have so many strong rares in green and blue, we're not super likely to be looking towards the double white rare, but this card is powerful as well. So really nice rares here. Just hoping that we have the good commons and uncommons to go with them. Take a peek at the color list here. We could definitely play a couple Scrap Compactors if we're low on removal in our main colors. Removal is quite important in this format, to where I will play some filler removal if I don't have anything better. The rest of our colorless cards are tremendously filler, though. Just if we don't have enough playables, we can play some of that outside of the Market Back Walkers, of course. We've got 1 green-blue dual land. I like that. 1 green-black dual land. If we want to try to do Sultai and fit all of these rares into the same deck, then that is a possibility. We might do that if our black is really strong, because with a double black card like Etchik, we would want black to be a super heavy color in our deck, just so we have a lot of those mana sources on the board at all times. All right, we're going to look at every color now, see where our strongest cards lie. White actually looks pretty solid here. Decent removal with some Gallant Strikes, a Ride's End, the Great Broadcast Rambler at the top end, and the Guardian Sunray. These are really solid creatures. Good cheap cards like Lynx and Nesting Bot as well. Don't like the Gliders too much, but this is a really decent, really solid color. I doubt we end up playing it just because of the quality of our other rares, but on average, this is a really, really solid white sealed pool for this format. Next up for blue, we have Possession Engine, of course. That's a huge one. Thopterist is solid. Shape Thief is solid. The Buccaneers actually have been very impressive to me. Optimizer, Imitator, Howler's Heavies, these are all pretty filler. Trade the Helm as well. But this core to the deck looks really, really strong, and we can play a little bit of the filler cards, even if they're not super great, like maybe an Imitator, maybe some Heavies as combat tricks or something. We could definitely play some of the filler to get the color into our deck. I do think Possession Engine and the Shape Thief go a long way towards making me want to play this color, particularly the Possession Engine. This card's very strong, getting rid of your opponent's strongest card and bashing into the 5/5 vehicle. Checking out our black now. I like the triple Packed Doll Terror a lot. So we've got okay interaction, Bauble and Siphon Fuel for removal, and a Maximum Overdrive as a combat trick where we can Death Touch kill something as well. So decent interaction here, not like really good interaction, but pretty decent. We don't have a ton of starter engines to make the Necro Regent any good. I like this card if I have a lot of 1 and 2 mana cards that start our engines. That way we can consistently be at max speed by the time that we cast it. I think this will be a little bit of an underperformer actually here in the color, but we do have triple Packed Doll Terror, which help a lot. These are great ways to raise your speed over time without having to actually attack your opponent. Just by playing artifacts, you're guaranteeing your opponent's going to lose a life, and your speed is going to rise. So our black is pretty decent. I mean, 3 of the best commons in the format. Some solid removal here. Black is definitely a very viable color. Oh, red is bad. Red is complete poop. I mean, there's a Lightning Strike and 2 Crash and Burns. That is it. There's just some removal. Yeah, tiny color in terms of the number of cards that we've opened, especially when it comes to like actually good playables. And green looks solid here, some Omnivores so that we are curving out a bit. The Tarian is a super beefy card. The Ketrodon's great at stabilizing. The Silken Strengths have actually been pretty impressive combat tricks. So there's that too. But I do think our black and our blue were both a little bit better than our green. So it is possible we could do some blue-black deck and just splash the green, because I only need a single green source for both of our incredibly powerful rares. I just need to get 1 green mana on the board to be able to play Sab, and 1 green mana on the board to be able to play Chick. This one is a 1/1 for each artifact and creature in our graveyard. So, I mean, it might not even be that crazy off the splash, because I don't even think we have any self-mill. There's a little bit of Surveil off Grim Bubble, but that's it. There's really low amounts of cheap creatures in the color pair, a massive stack of 4-drops. Yeah. Not super feeling this. I mean, I can try to get the Broodheart engine in, but splashing in 5 and 6 mana bomb rares, that's super easy to do. Trying to splash in a card you do want to play earlier to get all that Surveil going, that's a little rougher, because we want that green mana in the early game for this card ideally, and we're not going to consistently have it till much later. So I'm unsure about the Broodheart engine. I do like how well it synergizes with the Etchik here, but it's not going to come down early. I don't love our mana curve here. We get to cut 7 cards. The stallouts are awful. I'll definitely cut them. Trade the Helm's pretty bad. Wrangler's pretty bad. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, the Market Backwalkers really helped the curve. I should definitely have taken a look at that. Okay, now I have to cut 15 cards. I forgot how many colorless spells I have. Yeah, the double Scrap Compactor helps a ton. Okay. It's actually starting to get a lot spicier. Yeah, this is starting to look very legit. Does look like I need to cut a lot of 4-drops ideally. I mean, Shape Thief does still have the issues where you do need an additional creature on the board to even cast it in the first place, so it's pretty bad when you're behind. the strongest creatures we have to copy are both legends too. I mean, flashing in a fourth packed Altair is pretty spicy. So like when we draw it at the right time, it's going to be pretty great. Problem is that you can definitely hit it at the wrong time. I think Risen Necro Regent can be pretty balmy as long as we have the max speed for it when we play it. So I might even be potentially interested in playing the really filler, just 2 mana, 2/1, gets our engines started for this deck. I love having 2 dual lands here. That is so nice for that green splash. I think, again, I'm probably cutting Broodheart Engine. I mean, it's not a useless play if you don't hit your green mana till late, because you can play it and then sacrifice it the turn after you hit your green mana and like resurrect your best card, but it's still pretty inefficient at that point. Just as a really late game play, I really would prefer to just run like 1 Forest, 1 Jungle Hollow, 1 Thornwood Falls. It's a lot easier to do with only a 5 and a 6 mana green card. I'm going to cut the Broodheart Engine. Is this 17 lands? Still is 16 lands, so I need to put a land back in. Okay. 3 more cuts. Haunted Hellrite is... I've literally never cast this card. I mean, if you want to be constantly attacking, it feels pretty good, but I don't think you really care much about that in Sealed, especially in like this deck. Like, we kind of just want to sit on our butts, do some card filtering, some card draw, drain some life till we find our bomb finishers. We've got 3 different ones: Necro Regent, Sab, and the Insect Druid that I have repeatedly mispronounced, I'm sure. Oh, I'm probably mispronouncing Sab as well. Yeah, I don't think we're much of a Hellride deck. Similarly to how we cut the 3 mana creature that buffs something every time it attacks. Also feels like a cut. Guidelight Optimizer can tap for Pact Altair mana, and that's about it. I mean, it can tap for Possession Engine mana as well, but there are 4 cards that it'll tap for mana for. I guess it works for Buccaneer mana too. But a 2 mana 2/1 is a really bad stat line unless it has a super good ability, and I just don't think that ability is super good in this deck. So we could cut like these 3. I still think the Shape Thief is pretty cute with the Terrors and the Thopterist. But I think everything else that we're running here is just a more consistent card. I mean, maybe cut like a Walking Sarcophagus, throw that back in. Yeah, that'd be like the last change. I think I'm cutting these too. But then it would be like, I could cut Sarcophagus for the Shape Thief, or cut the Shape Thief and keep the Sarcophagus. Just really have 3 different Start Your Engines cards before the Pact Altairs start coming out to really work on that speed before we top deck a Risen Necro Regent, hopefully. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I mean, I don't know, Shape Thief gets around the usual issues with these kind of cards, in that you do just cycle it when it's horrible as well. Who needs a mana curve? Cut a Sarcophagus? Yeah. I like the Oil Gorger. I like the Flying Lifelink. I think Flying Lifelink is really strong, unless we're against a green deck and they've got the 4/4 reach trample, but outside of that, Oil Gorger has been pretty nice in a lot of these sealed games in my experience. Yeah, this looks like a really solid deck. This would be the 3-color build. It'd be Dimir splashing the green to get those 2 bombs in. I'll double check the mana base. We have 10 black cards, 9 blue, 2 green. We have 8, 9 black sources, 6, 7 green sources. Or sorry, 7 blue sources and 3 green. I think I'd rather go 50-50 on blue and black here. I've got a double blue card. I don't have any... Well, I've got 1 double black card as well. Yeah, we'll go 8 of each. 8 blue, 8 black this way. And then Foul Roads actually seems pretty bad here, right? It's basically always tapped. I have no vehicles and no mounts. Yeah, I mean, it still has a tiny bit of flood prevention, but all you're getting is a 1/1. So, not the craziest flood prevention. I'm just going to run an always untapped swamp over that. Okay, 8 black sources, 8 blue sources, 3 green. Looks good to me, but I do want to take a peek at what happens if we run just a 2-color deck here. Just going... There's no way we would run blue-black and not splash these in. But I could run blue-green and not splash in the insect thing. So what would our most consistent deck mana-wise look like? Over here in blue-green. Not bad at all, honestly. Could even run these two if I need more filler. These feel like the worst cards to go ahead and cut a couple of these. Obviously change the mana base to blue-green as well. The interaction is certainly worse. There's no green removal here. So instead of Grim Bauble and the -6/-6 spell, we just get a couple Silken Strengths, which are good combat tricks, but they're still, just combat tricks instead of hard removal. It certainly feels quite a bit less balmy without the Insect Druid and the Risen Necro Regent and stuff. I mean, I guess the Tarian kind of replaces the Necro Regent. Those are both really balmy 5-drops, but we're still down 1 super great finisher being in this color. I'm missing all the Packthal Terrors and stuff. Going for just a more aggressive curve with just Omnivores and a Surveyor over all the Packthal Terrors. It's definitely an option. Definitely looks viable, but I certainly prefer, usually in Sealed, going for just the raw power and doing a bit of splashing. So I'm going to stick to that Dimir deck splashing green, and we will reload that. All right, so here's like the deck that we have locked in here. It is going to be a Sultai deck, mainly Dimir, some blue-black stuff with that green splash for incredible bomb rares. I just feel like the format plays slow enough, especially in Sealed, that we can go for the deck that just has a much higher kind of curve and much more impactful late game plays, grinding things out with a few Packthal Terrors. There's not a super high artifact count in this deck, but they all trigger each other, as well as the other random artifacts that we do have a few of in here. So I think they're still really good. And then, of course, the really big finishers that we want, the Necro Regent, Sab, and a Chick here. Plenty of removal, plenty of interaction here. It looks like a really solid deck for grinding out a long game, as long as we don't run against anything super duper aggressive. We still have 4 blockers at 2 mana or less, which is pretty good. We still have a Grim Bauble for 1 mana removal, Compactors to use on 3. So we still have some early game stuff to slow down the more aggressive decks, but I feel that will be the biggest weakness to this deck. So fingers crossed here, but let's hop into that gameplay and see how it does. All right, here we are on the play for game 1. We get a Slick Imitator down on turn 2 to start our engines. That way, if we do make it to max speed, whenever we hit a Risen Necro Regent, that'll just immediately be spitting out zombies everywhere. Green-blue from our opponent. There's the Venom Sac Lagak. If they play anything with power 2 or more, they can just saddle this and attack as a 2/4 Death Toucher anyway. Imitator has already started my speed here. I wouldn't mind trading it into Lagak on attacks here. It's unlikely to be able to trade on blocks. I don't want to just sit here and take some Death Touch damage. I'm definitely not trading a Packthal Terror into the Venom Sac Lagak on blocks. So the trade happens. The most important part of Slick Imitator did already happen, which was just, it started our engines. And with the A-Chick in hand, just putting more creatures in grave is going to be decent late game. Okay, Keen Buccaneer. I like that a lot. If I manage to hit a 5th mana here, we can drop down a Buccaneer so that I can hold up the Spectral Interference. That way, if they cast something really nice, I'll counter that, and if they don't, I can just exhaust the Buccaneer. Now, if I don't hit a land, I'll probably still just play the second Pact Altair, but there you go. Here's the Buccaneer. That lets me hold up the trick. Not the trick, but the counter spell. Our opponent's on Bant here, green, blue, and white. Hole Drifter is the play. That's a draw 2, plus they already have the power to crew it. That, I think, earns a counter spell. 3-for-1 play. Okay. Can make a single insect off this card right now. I think we wait on that. I could Buccaneer and Pact Altair in the same turn, but it would just be a mill one if I end up keeping Pact Altair in hand. I guess it's possible I draw some that cost like 3 or less, discard the swamp, play that this turn instead. That seems fine. Do a little digging. Thopterist. Okay, that's really awkward. Because now it is just the mill one. I think I'll go for double terror here instead. Clear the board. Now I'm very happy to play this next turn. I get at least 3 insects at this point. If the insects were artifacts, that'd be super, super cool. With double terror. Spike Shell Harrier, bounce a terror. Sure. Oh, my speed goes down too. That's a little annoying. Okay, well, I don't mind grinding it out a little slower here. Going for some double blocks and stuff. I did draw a Buccaneer, which is another good play. I get another Drain 2 for doing this. Get my speed back up. Like, they're not a black deck. As long as they don't make me discard this, it's only going to get stronger the later I play it anyway. So as long as I have other plays... Oh, that's filthy. Afterburner Expert's a disgusting card. Just comes back from the graveyard for free when they exhaust a different creature they control. There's a Scrap Compactor, which isn't going to exile that thing, so that'll still just always be an issue. I also don't have the mana... Yikes. I don't have the mana to Scrap Compactor Harrier and get Pact Altair attacks in. Which is kind of sad, too. I do like that the Scrap Compactor is going to put another artifact in my grave as well. That's pretty sweet. Maximum speed. I'm ready for the Risen Regent. Thunderous Velocipede, that's probably a problem. It's 5/5 Death Touch and all of their other creatures enter with at least one more +1/+1 counter. Yeah, that's a very big deal. Does this blow up a vehicle? It does. Probably have to blow up Velocipede. They haven't drawn any exhaust cards yet, so at least that front is covered. Gas Guzzler. Max speed Gas Guzzler is definitely cute. Definitely cute. But we're blowing up a Velocipede, I believe. Okay, I'm going to blow that up before they get any more counters off it. Beast Rider Vanguard's an issue too, though. That's a card draw engine. They can spend 5, look at the top 3, put any permanent there into their hand. Do some really nice card draw with that. Speaking of really nice card draw, now's a solid point to Buccaneer because I have a card to discard. Okay. Gas Guzzler. Thornwood Falls. And then now we are going to slam down a chick. Uh-oh. Ranger's Refueler has an exhaust ability. That is exactly what we did not want to see. Reanimating their 6/4 from the grave here. Yep. Super strong. Triggers the Dredger's Insight for a life gain as well. Yikes. It's possible we should have shot Vanguard instead of the Velocipede thing. They would still draw into this Refueler within a couple turns, but... Actually, they would have drawn it immediately still, because they could have responded with Vanguard's ability to me shooting the Vanguard. So they still would have drawn Refueler, but we know they're not drawing any more cards from that point on. I don't know, then the combat's even worse for us this turn. It's a tough spot. It's a tough spot either way, for sure. You? I can't just sack the Pact Altair for value, because then they do 4 damage to Buccaneer. I would be losing both creatures if I choose to sack one now. Another Scrap Compactor. I mean, so now I can kill the Vanguard, but I have this Afterburner Expert that's an issue at this point. Yeah, I mean, I think I need to put 1,000,000 blockers down first and then compact the Vanguard. I mean, I'm at 29. I just take like a 10 damage swing, I guess 12. 14? I go to 15 and then play this. I feel like it's really just worth it to stop the card draw, honestly. I mean, Scrap Compacting Afterburner Expert's horrible, because if they ever top deck another exhaust card, it's just going to come back anyway. So we know what we're going to Scrap Compactor. The question is, do we make 1,000,000 blockers right now or Scrap Compactor right now? And I think I have a heavy enough life total to Scrap Compactor first to make sure they're not drawing any more extra cards off of this. And I just take a big hit for this, but then I have so many blockers, I'm not going to take a hit again for a long time. And the 8-chick with the Gas Guzzler is also pretty sick, where we can draw a ton of cards. Every time we're chumping, we're drawing a card. Although, I mean, we might be on the mill plan by now, honestly, with 11 cards left in their deck. So maybe not wanting to draw too many. Hold up all the black mana for Gas Guzzler. They've got some of the lands they can sack for 1/1s, but they're sorcery speed. You don't have to worry about your opponent making a 1/1 blocker at instant speed with those. Ketrodon's here. Each opponent loses life, and this gets a +1/+1 counter. I'm not going to try to kill that thing, because again, it can just come back soon enough anyway. They have 10 cards left over there. Glitch, Ghost, Surveyor, Flyer. Flyer's a problem. I still have a lot of leeway to draw more cards right now. Trip up. Ooh, Market Backwalker? Oh, I have to draw cards equal to the counters? I don't know about that one. Holding up the trip up, obviously. But this also looks like me holding up a million black mana, so it's a little less suspicious than it could be otherwise. Plus, I can just dump the 4 into that later for the next counter. I still don't think I have attacks. How much reach do I have in this deck? I might have to blow up this flyer. No, I've got a couple flyers and removal to draw into. I'll take a hit or two. Also, Grimbauble works. Go to 13. I guess I could trip up once they're at 3 speed just to keep them off max speed. Oh, no. They can keep re-exhausting. Does Refueler have to draw them a card? Yes. Okay, so we're 100% on the mill plan now then. I kind of don't want to trip up just so they don't stop milling. I've got my million insects. Just need to not die in the sky, really. They have 7 cards left. Gotta live 7 turns. Necro Regent adds a bajillion to the blockers on ground, because we are at max speed. Again, as long as I just don't die in the sky. Six cards left. Put one of our cards back into our library, sure. Probably Necro Regent or a token here. It's fine. Gas Guzzler? Third from the top. Oh, it can't sack itself. Okay, yeah, that just happens then. Sure. They want to make sure I don't draw a bunch of cards off these blocks to have a ton of cards left to stabilize. Yeah, my board's so big, I think I look fine already. Go to 11. They do a trample trick, I have the trip up. We see nothing on their board that cares about max speed still. So I think I'm just holding trip up for a very rainy day. 6 cards left in their deck. I could trip up my own H-Hook here to make 7 more insects. And redraw it next turn. I don't think we're doing that, but it's good to keep that in mind, that that is something we can do. Guidelight Pathmaker. Just a big vigilant creature on the ground. They have 4 cards in their deck. Grabs any artifact left in there, but there's only 4 cards left. Does find a diversion unit. That's another flyer. But now there are 3 cards left, and it is summoning sick. If I trip up, they take another turn to mill. So it almost doesn't really change that flying math. I think it's just better to not trip up. So I take 2, I'm at 9, they have 2 cards left. I take 4, I'm at 5, they have 1 card left. I take 4, I'm at 1, they have no cards left. And then they die, right? 9, 2. 5, 1. 1, 0. No, they can kill me with an empty library still. Yeah, this is a problem. They currently kill me faster than they mill. If they draw 0 extra cards from this point on. But if I trip up, they'll kill me even more. Right? Because that goes back on top. Now they have 4 turns. They draw it, hit me for 2. Well, they kill me exactly as hard, right? The clock just starts next turn if I trip up now. They go back to, okay, they draw that next turn. Now they have 3 cards in deck again, hitting me for 2 in the sky, and I'm at 9. Okay, so the clock is exactly the same whether or not I trip up, so I don't trip up. We have to draw anything that stops just one of these flyers. We know a gas guzzler's coming up. Grimbauble. Okay, let's go. Okay. Whew. I'm gonna hit that one because I'm very cool with them drawing another card with its ability. Oh my god. Pass turn. 2 cards in deck. Down to 7. Oh man, oh man. I have to find something to deal with that. Oh, it draws them a card. Because they've got 1 card left. Hit for 5, I go to 2. And then die the turn after. Yeah, I forgot that has to draw them a card because I didn't kill the refueler. I'm so glad I didn't kill the refueler, by the way. Okay, I'm not going to surveil here because I want to draw Gas Guzzler, sack Walker. Probably. For more interaction. Draw 7. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Got the 3 up for diversion unit here. Super, super healthy life total, and I have trip up if something super awkward happens. Final card in their deck has been drawn. They are dead next turn to mill. Flood the engine. 1 blocker, yep. Greenbelt Guardian can give things trample. 5 things trample? If I trip up now, they respond by giving the 5 things trample. So they give this trample, and then they're not going to mill out next turn if I respond with trip up. I just can't respond with trip up. I might be dead to Greenbelt Guardian. God, man. I think Greenbelt Guardian just gets me. Just so much damage. Oh, that sucks. Get trampled for 2. Eight power there, yeah. Get trampled for 4. It's so lethal. So best play is to try to even things out as much, right? Where everything hits for about the same amount. So if they trample that, I get hit 4. Trample that, I get hit 4. Trample that, I get hit for 2. Trying to maximize my maximum overdrive potential. Damage stopping. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is already lethal on board. 9, 10, 11. Yeah, there's nowhere we can have overdrive, like somehow live this. Or even trip up for that matter, but if we trip up... I mean, I guess if I trip up, I try to counterattack kill. Okay, 1, 2... 1, 2... Hold up. No, I don't have a counterattack kill either, because I'm losing, like, my whole board. Okay, yeah, they got me. And, I mean, the timer's out, but there's nowhere to cast overdrive to not die. Or trip up. Greenbelt freaking Guardian. So if we... No, even if I held the -6/-6 removal, it doesn't matter, because again, they could just trample everything pre-combat. But if I held that, I could have cast that pre-combat and forced them to choose all the tramples, and then maybe we can find a way, like with the 5 things that we know have trample, to shove enough over there and then just 1s everywhere else. But I really don't think that we can. Like, we definitely could have done that with trip up. If I tried to do that with trip up, then I end up having to shove a bunch of stuff in front of the tramplers, and then they just don't mill out next turn. If I had held on to Siphon Fuel and used that instead on Greenbelt Guardian during their turn, I'd be taking 5 in the sky no matter what. Oh, yeah, no. Because they had the 5 power in the sky. So there's no way that, like, that works. Because, again, because it's just an instant speed activated ability, like, they just activate it a bunch of times when I target it. Either way. Brutal. All right, 0-1 it is, heading into game 2. Literally a single card off from the mill victory. Here we are on the play for game 2. Curve out with Buccaneer. No way to start our engines, which is part of what I say. You really, really want the Necro Regent. You want those cheap start your engines cards. And our opponent starts with a disgusting one, a 1-mana card with Menace that starts your engines. That is one of the easiest ways to have max speed early in the game. Even if I had a blocker down, I couldn't block that thing, and they'd be raising their speed. Bastronaut is phenomenal if you have it in your opening hand. Jesus, the Lightning Strike for the Buccaneer too. Okay, no 3-drop. They're at speed 3. Here's the Packed Doll Terror. Double Necro Region could be pretty nasty if we manage to keep that around. They're at maximum speed, so now that thing has double strike. That thing's a 3-4 vigilance I can't attack into with my 3-3 flyer. That is tiltingly bad for me, because now my Oil Gorger sucks, just all because Bastronaut gave them free maximum speed here. This is a very bad board state for us already. I guess we gotta drop Necro Regent because Oil Gorger does literally nothing. Sky Crash the Terror. Now I can't block the Bastronaut because Menace. Leonin Surveyor. These are some of the roughest games of Arena Directs, is when you run into an aggro deck that's better than the aggro decks you've seen in Draft and Sealed. It's like, god dang it. Because Sealed, everybody has to usually play a much slower deck. The curves are awkward, the mana bases are kind of splashy, and then your opponent's just like, yep, incredible, streamlined 2-color aggro deck, goodbye, see you next Arena Direct run, and that's the position we're in here. That's all it takes to lose out on an Arena Direct. Still have probably 1 or 2 draws that keep us in the game, but very few of them. At 8 life already. There's a 5-4 haste as well. Yeah. That's a thing. Overdriving here gives me the 4-4 flying blocker for the assailant next turn. If I top deck something that kills Bastronaut, we can stabilize and win from here. Top deck a Bauble, or any of the other removal spells in the deck. Scrap Compactors, and so on. Siphon Fuel, Trip Up. But I need it instantly. Cool. That's all it takes to lose an Arena Direct. 0-2 for the first Arena Direct, a particularly brutal one, grinding the first game out till the literal last turn possible with 0 cards in our opponent's deck into just the quickest loss ever. But that is best of 1 sealed for you. I think our deck was pretty strong, but we just ran into the wrong stuff to see. An incredible aggro deck from our second opponent, and our opponent winning the board stall at the absolute last second there. I really feel like our plays were quite reasonable during that board stall. The one biggest thing that could have changed is I could have had 6 more toughness if I just held onto the Market Back Walker, but I felt we were a lot more likely to randomly die to some way to pump the flyers than we were to trampling the whole board, because there's not a lot of cards that do that, but there are plenty of combat tricks in general. There are a lot more cards that would just like buff a creature than buff the entire board with trample. So I chose to sack the Market Back Walker to draw 7 to try to find some interaction to clear out a flyer or find a reach creature to block one of the flyers, and that played out detrimentally for us. I think technically had I not sacrificed the Market Back Walker, since we would have had 6 more toughness on the board, we would have at the very least had a much bigger chance of surviving the trample to the whole board that our opponent drew into. And we probably would have technically survived, but again, with the information that I had at the time, with the number of cards in the set that would, like, you know, give a creature +4/+4 till end of turn or do a little bit of damage to me or anything like that, versus the number of cards that give trample to a multitude of creatures. I think there were more cards that I could have died to by not drawing into Siphon Fuel than cards that I could have died to by not Siphon Fueling their creature, if that makes sense. Right, I was like more likely to die not sacking Walker and then Siphon Fueling a card than I was having sacrificed it and Siphon Fueling a card. Because again, if I had sacked this, I wouldn't have had the Siphon Fuel there. I wouldn't have done that digging, and I wouldn't have lowered the number of flyers that they had. It's just rough that because I did that, I had much less toughness on board. But I mean, even then, right? Even then, I wouldn't have gained 2 life anymore then, I suppose. And I wouldn't have... I would have stopped the 3 damage from the 3/5 flyer. Because this killed a 3/5 and gained 2. So this stopped like 5 damage. If I didn't sack the Walker would have stopped 6. So I guess I technically stopped like 1 more point of damage, or 1 less point of damage this way. Yeah, no, never mind. I had to think it out in my head. Generally, we just couldn't have done anything there, even if I knew exactly what they were drawing into. Or, I mean, it's possible they just held that in their hand the whole time, which is fair as well, waiting till they had enough trample. Because if they play it the turn that they go for all the attacks, there's nothing I can do about it, because even with the instant speed removal in hand, they just respond by activating it a multitude of times. Yeah, I think it was just rough. I just don't think there was something I could do. Like, I was trying to think back, and I was like, well, if I didn't sack the Walker, I would have had a lot more toughness. Yeah, but I also wouldn't have gained 2 and killed a 3/5 flyer. So I'd have taken 3 in the sky and been at 2 less life. I would have taken 5 more damage to take 6 less damage. It's like the exact same position, basically. All right, well, we tried, but we did not quite... Well, we really didn't get there technically, but I feel like game 1 was absurdly close. But it is what it is. That's where the cookie crumbles. That's how the cards fall, and that is what is so brutal about these best of 1 sealed events. Blink and you miss it, and you are out of contention. That is 0-2 for the first run of the Aetherdrift Arena Direct. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in a recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.